stocks slip as global attention over rising Gaza casualties sparks concerns. Realty as well as financials are the big drags today, even as pharma sees some green.
Bajaj Finance reports strong growth even as credit costs rise and margins crimp. Analysts remain upbeat on the financier's prospects, but expensive stock valuations invite profit-taking.
Early Midcap IT results fail to cheer as key players lower their guidance, even as deal wins stay strong. The showing raises risks of Midcap IT outperformance coming to an end.
Syngene slips after it cuts guidance on weak U.S. outlook. ICICI Prudential Life slides on a margin miss. Hoodco sells off for its offer for sale at a discount, while MMTC and STC slump on their likely closure.
Hundreds die as a massive explosion hits a hospital in Gaza. Protests erupt across cities in West Asia as the Hamas blames an Israeli airstrike for the explosion, while the Israelis say the explosion was caused by a misfiring Hamas rocket. U.S. President Joe Biden will also land in Israel as a show of support, but a summit between the U.S. President and Egyptian as well as Palestinian leaders stands cancelled. Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me, as always, is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. Pavitra, we started on a very stable note today, but look what the global tensions and a lot of macroeconomic factors, which were already a pressure point on the market, they all come to erupt as soon as the geopolitical issues and concerns come to the fore. So at the moment, really looking at Nifty 50, it is closer to the low point of the day. It has lost 100 points, and till about 10:40, we were maintaining an upward movement, and even 19,800 levels were achieved. But now Nifty 50 struggling at 19,680 odd levels. When we talk about sensex inching towards a 500 points cut, mid-cap universe is also downtrodden, 0.8% down, and bank Nifty, that is where the maximum damage has come in, over 1% loss in that particular space. So all in all, it's a red screen, but there are stock-specific actions, especially with earnings impact on specific stocks. Overall, the advanced decline ratio, because of the overall market volatility and weakness coming in, especially because of the Israel tension and conflict, well, that is having an impact on the market strength. But pharma, that is one space which is really standing tall and are the biggest gainers as well, Pavitra.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, it's been quite a steep sell-off that we've seen, and across global markets as well. So all eyes really on West Asia and the developments that we do get out of there. We're going to track that very closely. For our own markets, even for the broader markets, which were holding up much better at the start of the trading session, you've seen an over 1% kind of fall on the mid-cap index. So that is the kind of severity with which that pack has fallen. There are, however, some stocks which are managing to hold up on the back of very good news flow coming in. So let's pull a few of those up and you can see what's going on in some of these names like Astra, Huhtamaki, all of these things, big moves. The mid-cap IT space is very interesting today because you have a whole bunch of stocks which are doing very well, 9-10% higher. But on the downside, something like a Zensar, L&T Tech, the street is just not having it. So those ones look a little bit, worrying. For larger losers, it is a lot about the financials. So the Bajaj twins, you have a lot of the banks, and Reliance also seeing some cuts. So we'll talk more about the market action, but let's kickstart Business Lunch by talking about the top story, which is, of course, the ongoing conflict in West Asia. Protests erupt after Palestinian authorities reported that at least 500 people were killed in a hospital airstrike as Israeli forces continue to target the Gaza Strip. The Israel Defense Forces, however, deny the responsibility of the attack. Sky News' Alistair Binkle gets us up to speed with all of the details.
We're still in that sort of period of the fog of war where both sides are making claims against each other. The militant groups based in Gaza say that this was an Israeli strike on the hospital. Independent groups like Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, have also claimed it was an Israeli missile strike. but the Israelis say that it was not them, and they say they have proof that it was a failed rocket launch by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the smaller of the militant groups based in Gaza. Now, we're awaiting unequivocal proof of what the Israelis say, and I'm sure they'll be eager to get that out there in the public domain as soon as possible. Regardless of the claims and counterclaims, the death toll, we're told, is around 500. Many of them women and children, civilians, people sheltering in the hospital, as well as those receiving treatment. The death toll could rise, some suggesting up to around 800. And the other factor in all of this is that even if Israel can prove that they were not behind it, that simply will not be believed by many people around the Arab world. And that is why we saw protests on the streets of the West Bank last night, in Beirut, in Amman, and elsewhere. And it is why it is a dangerous moment for this war.
All right, extremely heartbreaking news and visuals coming out of West Asia over there. We're going to bring you more on that. But first up, listen to what the IDF spokesperson and Palestinian envoy to the United Nations have to say on the explosion at the hospital.
The IDF has concluded an after-action review and confirmed that the Islamic Jihad was responsible for the strike at the Al-Hali Al-Ma'dani hospital in Gaza. We did an immediate review with all relevant branches of the IDF. This is what took place on Tuesday, October 17th. At 6:15 p.m., a barrage of rockets was fired by Hamas to Israel. Then, at 6:59 p.m., a barrage of around 10 rockets was fired by Islamic Jihad from a nearby cemetery. It was at the time that 6:59 p.m. when there were reports of an explosion at the Al-Hali Al-Mahadani hospital in Gaza City. According to our intelligence, Hamas checked the reports, understood it was an Islamic Jihad rocket that had misfired, and decided to launch a global media campaign to hide what really happened.
He is a liar. His spokesperson and digital spokesperson tweeted that Israel did the hit, thinking that there is around this hospital a base for Hamas, and then he deleted that tweet. We have a copy of that tweet, and Talal can share with you that tweet. Now they change the story to try to blame the Palestinians. It is a lie, and the Israeli spokesperson of the army, about a week ago, made a statement in which he said, evacuate the hospitals are target, and in fact they hit one hospital a week ago. So their intentions is evacuate or hospitals will be hit, and they are responsible for that crime, and they cannot fabricate stories.
All right, so tensions, they're escalating between Israel and Hamas, and that's the latest coming in on that conflict. Now, the U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to arrive in Israel any time from now, and he's scheduled to meet with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and also has reaffirmed his solidarity with the country. He has also slated to attend a summit at Jordan and meet with the Egypt's president, as well as, however, that particular meeting had stood cancelled. That summit stood cancelled following the deadly explosion at the hospital in Gaza. So that's the latest turn of events coming in from this particular big conflict that has emerged. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. On the other side, we throw the spotlight on some of the stocks buzzing in trade today. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch. Let's talk about some of the big movers today. Of course, Bajaj Finance is one of them. It is under pressure. It is the top loser, in fact, on the Nifty. The company posted pretty much inline set of Q2 numbers, and you did see the NI come in at 7,197 crore rupees. The calculated net interest margin was also at 9.92. But what are brokerages saying about this? It is actually quite split. So Abhishek is here to take us through the bull versus bear case on the stock.
As you mentioned, the numbers were in line. However, what I learned from analysts is that in the con call, the management has actually guided for net interest margin to decline by about 30 basis points in the second half. So largely that may play out in Q4. We have a bull versus bear scenario where, brokerages are divided. So for the bulls, the brokerages do say that growth and profitability are strong. Asset quality is normalizing. Growth outlooks also remain strong as management has held on to the guidance of AUM growth of 29 to 31% for FY24. There is no inorganic aspiration in near to medium term from the management, and the entry into new segment is also aiding the growth in AUM. So brokerages like CLSA, HSBC, Jefferies, etc., they have a target price ranging from as low as 9,470 per share to as high as 9,620 per share. On the bear side of the analyst community, they say that the net interest margin decline and higher credit costs are actually key negatives from the results. A capital raise would be used for organic growth and to also infuse money into the housing finance subsidiary that they have. So capital raise would increase FY24 book value by about 14%, and valuations for Bajaj Finance looks to be on the expensive side. So we have Goldman Sachs with a sell rating and a target price of 7,205 per share. Also Macquarie, which has an underperformance rating and a target price of 6,300 per share, who are batting for the bear side of the analyst community. Back to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Abhishek, for that analysis. And remember, Bajaj twins from the financial services space are the top nifty losers in the trading session. What else is losing the maximum? Well, let's talk about the Midcap IT space. And it's also a reaction to the earnings that we are seeing. Whole host of the Midcap IT stocks, L&T Tech Services, Newgen Software and Happiest Minds are all in focus after reporting their second quarter numbers. And we spoke to the management of these companies on what they foresee in the coming quarters and FY24 as a whole. Listen in.
We will continue to work and see what we can do towards the upper end or more if possible, and come back and update in January again. Margins for us, if you remember, prior to coming together with Smart World, we were at 18.5 plus % in EBIT. And with Smart World, we've achieved 17.2 last quarter, 17.1 this quarter. I do have confidence we will stay in the 17% range for now. Of course, our ambition is to get up to above 18% again. We had a very slight change because of the strikes to the extent of less than 50 bips in growth, but we did have that. I would say Q4 will look like similar or slightly better than Q2.
We sell only licenses, and that's what. And the license is either in the subscription mode or in the perpetual mode. And as depending on the market, some markets are more accustomed to paying in what you call perpetual mode. Today, the larger growth is coming in Middle East and India. So these are markets where we sell more license. So the license growth is high. But as we start shifting more and more to mature markets, subscription growth momentums will pick up. On the large bank deals, that's what the growth momentum is being driven from. In fact, even this quarter, last 20 days, we got one of the largest deals in public sector banks for us in India. At least every year, we are compounding our average deal size by 20-30% on an average growth.
When we started the year, we had a couple of larger names in our acquisition pipeline. We had taken that into account while coming out with the guidance at 25%. So yes, the back of the envelope calculation today suggests that we had taken between 15 to 20% on organic growth while taking the balance 5% coming in from acquisition. So that was the structure of the 25% when we started the year. And we were progressing reasonably well on that. If you look at the half year over half year, in constant currency, we have done about 12.7%. So we have to do a similar kind of repeat over Q3 and Q4 to meet that number of 12% that we have out there.
All right, that is a whole host of mid-cap IT companies that we've been speaking to. We also spoke to Zensar, by the way, which is down 4% as well. They are saying that H2 is pretty much always tougher for them. They've also gone back on the management bonuses. I mean, they were provided for, but they weren't given out, and that also, of course, weighing on the stock. But with that, it is time for a short break. When we come back, as we run up to the state elections in Chhattisgarh in November, we're going to bring you excerpts from our exclusive conversation with the state's former Chief Minister, Raman Singh. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and no let-up in sight for the market because the weakness persists. Let's talk about the election fever in the country. Now, as Chhattisgarh gears up for the election, there is a lot of back and forth going on between the ruling party as well as the opposition. In an exclusive interview with CNBC-TV18, well, the former Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Raman Singh speaks about the upcoming elections and what they will do if they come to power in the elections. Listen in.
हम बोल रहे हैं कि पैडी का प्रोक्योरमेंट पूरा करेंगे। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा है कि पूरी धान खरीदी की व्यवस्था छत्तीसगढ़ में भारतीय जनता पार्टी करेगी। दूसरा, जो करप्शन है, भ्रष्टाचार है, जिस प्रकार के छत्तीसगढ़ में 15,000 करोड़ के घोटाले हुए, शराब से लेकर कोल से लेकर चावल घोटाला, उनकी जांच करा के दोषी के खिलाफ कार्रवाई करेंगे। और जो सिस्टम में जो गिरावट आई है, पीएससी जैसे संस्था जहां पे लोगों के भविष्य तय होते हैं, लाखों बच्चे आज इसलिए परेशान हैं कि आज पीएससी की विश्वसनीयता कांग्रेस ने खत्म कर दी।
कितना आप किस तरह से आंकेंगे अपने 15 साल के काम को नक्सलवाद मुक्त करने में राज्य को, और भूपेश बघेल सरकार के पिछले 5 साल के काम?
नक्सल के खिलाफ लड़ाई की पृष्ठभूमि और तैयारी बीजेपी ने ही किया। कांग्रेस के पूरे शासनकाल के दौरान नक्सलियों को संरक्षण दिया गया, बढ़ाने का काम किया, चाहे मध्य प्रदेश की सरकार हो, चाहे कांग्रेस की सरकार 2003 तक यहाँ थी, उस सरकार थी, हमने कार्य योजना बनाया।
15 साल तक आपने अगुवाई की है पार्टी की, राज्य में आप सीएम थे। इस बार मतलब पहले ये अंडरस्टूड था कि आप सीएम चेहरा होंगे, अब अलग बाकी कॉन्टेंडर्स भी हैं, विजय बघेल हैं, अरुण साहू हैं, तो इसको लेकर के आपका क्या कहना है? क्योंकि इस पे बड़ा आपको घेरा जा रहा है, मतलब बीजेपी को घेरा जा रहा है, भाजपा को घेरा जा रहा है। भूपेश बघेल सरकार का कहना है कि कोई लीडर, अब एग्जैक्ट लीडर कोई बचा नहीं है, इसलिए मनसुख मांडविया जी को लाया जा रहा है, बार बार अमित शाह जी को रैलियां करनी पड़ रही हैं। तो राज्य स्तर पे जो भाजपा की लीडरशिप है उस पे सवाल खड़े हो रहे हैं। और दूसरा, सीएम चेहरा कौन है ये अब तक साफ नहीं हुआ है। यह आरोप है कि दिखाता है अपने आप में कि सब ठीक नहीं है राज्य स्तर पे भाजपा में।
देखिए, 2003 की बात करूं, 2008 की बात करूं, 2013 की बात करूं, 3 बार मैं मुख्यमंत्री बना। तीनों बार कोई मुख्यमंत्री का चेहरा बीजेपी ने प्रोजेक्ट नहीं किया था डॉक्टर रमन को। उस समय भी हमने कहा था कि सामूहिक नेतृत्व में हम चुनाव लड़ेंगे, और सामूहिक नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ा। चुनाव लड़ने के बाद विधायक दल की बैठक हुई और 1 घंटे में निर्णय होता। इस बार भी हम सामूहिक नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ने जा रहे हैं, वही नेतृत्व हमारे पास है, और एक बार विधायक दल की बैठक में हम तय करेंगे कौन मुख्यमंत्री हो। आज मुख्यमंत्री के लिए किसी का चेहरा सामने लाने की जरूरत नहीं है।
All right, that is an important conversation, but we're also getting some live visuals coming in of US President Joe Biden's airplane, which is due to land in Israel very soon. He is going to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as tensions really escalate in West Asia. So all eyes on that meeting. We'll, of course, be tracking this very closely as he has just landed in Tel Aviv. All right, with that, we're going to wind down on this edition of Business Lunch. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have Midcap Radar coming up in 2.